that, like you mentioned, that you get a vibe from. And if you've been in this business long enough, you can, to a certain degree, kind of feel people and something there's sometimes something about a person that's just like a little off. They're complaining about something that you're like that. Why are you complaining about? Like something is a little weird here.
Yeah.
And I know it can be a little controversial because you're not judging the person, but in a way you got to make sure to cover your bases and protect yourself. So you kind of have to be wary of those things and be aware of them.
Hey, what is going on, everyone? My name is Dustin, and I'm the host of the Detail Spot podcast. And I just want to thank all of you for tuning in, returning listeners. And if you're new to the podcast, make sure to stay till the end because this episode is going to be an absolute banger. We have on Miranda Detailing. Phil, you probably know him through his YouTube. He has a really big YouTube channel, and he just brings a lot of value to this industry. And it's someone that I would consider an industry leader and someone that I've really been looking forward to bringing on the podcast. So I know you guys are going to enjoy it. And again, I can't thank y'all enough for the amount of support y'all have shown the podcast, for the returning listeners, to the ones leaving reviews, to the ones giving me feedback, and just really showing the support. I can't thank y'all enough. And that you are the ones who make this possible, who are make it to where I can bring this content to you. And so yeah, I just want to say thank you so much, and stay till the end because this episode is going to be one that you don't want to miss. Phil's a super knowledgeable guy, like I mentioned, and just one that you can definitely learn from. And he shares a lot of valuable stuff in this episode. So stay tuned and let's go ahead and get into it. And if you are watching on YouTube, last week's winner was a tentative finish. This week's winner for the Detail Community t-shirt and your first month free of the Detail Community is Thomas Docherty, or Daughtry, however you pronounce that. Very sorry if I butcher that. But definitely shoot me a message, man, and I will make sure to get that t-shirt sent out to you. And congratulations. And if you are looking to win a free Detail Community t-shirt, make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe for your chance to win next week's giveaway. So yeah, make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Phil, really good to have you on. Tell us a little bit about you, what you got going on, and your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so my wife and I own Miranda Detailing. We've been in business for 13 years now. And we have a new location. We've been in this location for about 2 years. But before that, we were mostly mobile. So we started as mobile detailers and just gradually morphed into this garage shop. And this is out of our home. It's convenient. It's cheaper than a actual separate, brick and mortar shop. And this is kind of always my dream, kind of my end game is to basically have a shop at my home, have customers come to me. It's convenient for me. It's easy. It's nice to have a shop here with everything set up. So yeah, that's been our main business. YouTube was kind of a side thing that started 4 or 5 years ago. And it basically started just to give information for our customers, to have some video to show what we do on our details and send the customer a link, and then they can see what we do. And the more I did that, then I started getting questions and people commenting, and they liked it, and they started asking questions, and it just got carried away and just snowballed from there. And I just kept on making videos, answering questions and showing our work, and it just grew from there. So I'm very thankful because I didn't know it was going to do that. I didn't know it was going to morph into something else, and it's become a major part of our business now, which is awesome. So yeah, lots of other things in the midst of that, but that in a nutshell is basically what we're doing now for our detailing business.
Yeah, that's really cool because video is like, I feel like kind of underused in kind of our space to where, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be like a YouTube channel like you have it. It could just be like a YouTube that educates clients. And
Mhm.
it's super cool that you could say, hey, you get the common question of like, if I wanted to wash my vehicle like in between details, you could have a video and send to a client a link of leading them to your YouTube, which you go way further into that. But for detailers out there, like they could utilize YouTube as well in a different way.
Definitely. Oh yeah. And I mean, that's how I learned too. When I started 13 years ago, there were some big YouTube guys out there that they're still doing YouTube now, but they've kind of morphed into maybe their own product line and stuff like that, which is awesome.
Mhm.
Gary Dean, it was a big one back in the day, and then just watching all the other ones like Mike Phillips and Auto Geek and all those. I learned so much from those guys.
Mhm.
Larry Cosella from Ammo and Jason Rose and all those guys, back in the day, working for like McGuire's and stuff. And a lot of those videos they're still there. I mean, they're archived like 10 plus years ago, but nobody really goes back and watches those old ones. But it's really nothing new that the stuff that I'm doing, it's stuff that I've copied other detailers and I just kind of adapted it to my own way.
Mhm.
So it's not my own creation. It's just me adapting and then using it and showing how it's used. And they're like, "Oh, that's brilliant." And I'm like, "It's kind of old news. Like it's been on there. You got to go search for it." But I understand. I'm like, how do you search for that content? It's archived 10 years ago.
Mhm.
People want fresh stuff. So I get it. So I'm like, okay, I'll kind of redo it and just rehash the same stuff and just adapt it to modern day, detailing. So
And to add like your personality on it too. Like, some of those older videos, like they were doing things differently back then just because like YouTube wasn't really like a big thing then. But like now you can kind of add your flair to it. If they vibe with you, it'll hit home better for them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. And everybody's got like their own little way of doing YouTube. Some guys are very serious because they get on camera and they just can't help it. The nervousness does it. For me, the nervousness makes me like more energetic. It's like a
Mhm.
nervous energy. And sometimes I'll get a little goofy and just kind of run with it, and new ideas pop into my head as I'm filming. And it's like an excitement energy. That's what the nerves do to me.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Same, but not in a positive way for me. It takes me 50 takes sometimes.
Oh well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got a lot of editing to do. It's like 80% of it goes into the trash.
Man,
Nobody sees it.
do you remember a guy I remember like so I started detailing like in high school around like I was probably like 16, 17, like little small detail shop, but I was kind of doing it on the side. That shop shut down and I kind of like was detailing out like my Toyota Camry. Like I had a huge shop vac that would load in the back seat. Wasn't really probably detailing, but I remember watching this guy, Darren Priest. Do you remember him on
Yeah.
YouTube?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I learned a lot from him as well.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know if he's still around or not, but shout out to
Yeah,
him.
he puts out. I actually saw he put out a couple of videos just a couple of weeks ago. He's not as regular. Auto Fetish, right? I believe it's
Mhm.
Auto Fetish. Yeah, I learned a lot from him because he had the same van that I did, like that little Astro van. I don't even know if
Yeah.
he has it or not, but his old videos, long time ago, he had that little Astro van that he organized, and I even organized my old Astro van when I first started to his similar setup. All of his little
Mhm.
drawers and things. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'll copy that. So yeah.
Yeah, it was good information. So I love like what you were talking about with your shop. Like you got the perfect setup, and I always felt like it's something that I haven't like ever had the opportunity to do, like work from home out of the garage. But like it is probably my number one most underrated thing. Like it to me, it is the best setup, depending on your goals and like what your aspirations are. But like, some people want that massive shop, multiple employees, but like the
Yeah.
simplicity and actually how much money you can actually make just working from your home, creating your own schedule. I love how you have that set up is like you have that freedom. Was this something that like you knew from the very beginning you wanted to do, or how did you come into that?
Yeah, so with detailing in general, we kind of stumbled across it because right before we moved down here to Virginia, we were living up northern New York and Vermont area. So I'm from the Northeast originally. And up there, we were jumping around from all sorts of different jobs. I used to be like an interior painter for the big ski mountains like Killington and Pico and those big Vermont ski mountains. And that was my wife's family's business, and it was great. And then just the economy changed, ownership changed of those big mountains, and like our business just was obliterated. And like our lives were just like turned upside down. It was crazy. So a lot happened between that and moving down here. We basically just hit rock bottom. But so I was jumping around all sorts of different jobs. But 2 years before we moved down here and we made this decision to go into detailing, there was a friend of ours who had a mobile detailing, or not a mobile detailing, a mobile bumper painting business. So he would go to dealerships and actually get the used cars and repair their bumpers and mix the colors right in the trailer, like a little mini um, paint shop. And I learned how to do that, mix colors, spray, clear coat, like repair bumpers. I learned a lot about clear coat and paint systems through that. And originally I wanted to start that business, but the startup cost was just ridiculous. And I was already in thousands of dollars of debt. So in the midst of my research, I stumbled across detailing and the chemicals and Auto Geek and like all these other, things out there in the forums. I'm like, what is this world? And I just kind of jumped into it. And I was like, to my wife, I'm like, why don't we do this instead? This is cheaper. It's still automotive. Like it looks easier. It's not like the chemicals, like the painting chemicals that we were worried about. And so we're like, let's do it. We sold everything we had up there, came down with like 2 vehicles full of our personal items, and just started from scratch. Like it was like starting a whole new life. And we basically put everything on credit cards again. And we bought a van and all the equipment and just started as a mobile wash, begging people to like wash their cars for like 25 bucks and vacuum and all that stuff. And just in the midst of that, we grew and learned, and we just updated everything eventually. So we kind of learned, we did have guys on YouTube, like I mentioned, that were available there to kind of teach and kind of help. But we didn't have like individual little training sessions, that we do now. A lot of other detailers or independent little guys like us are doing training courses, and it's cheaper. It's easier, it's not a giant classroom setting, and it's easier to get your hands on. So, basically that's how we learned from trial and error. And that's why we're doing training now, is to kind of help people bypass all those little errors that we made and skip a couple of years of errors and get to like starting to actually grow your business and make money and all of that. So yeah, our detailing journey was just gradual and a little bit torturous, but we cut our teeth on the worst of it, and we got through it, and now it's to a point now where it's sustainable and enjoyable, actually a lot more enjoyable.
And then how many years ago was that like you really just started dabbling in detailing?
It was like the middle of '09.
Okay. Yeah.
Middle
So
of
right
'09.
after the recession, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause we actually, right before that, like a year before that, we had lost our home. Like I didn't lose the home. I lost my job, and then we
Hmm.
had to sell the house. Unfortunately, we were able to sell the house quick enough and get out of it, cause we didn't have any work coming in at all. So
Hmm.
it was crazy. It was that point where we're like, we got to get out of here. Like it was just, we couldn't live up there and
Hmm.
make a living. So that was one of the reasons why we moved down here. Warmer climates, longer working season. And we learned like people love their cars from like Virginia down, and to the west. Like everybody cares for their cars differently than up in the north
Yeah.
because of the weather.
Yeah. They just know it's going to deteriorate. So they're like, eh.
Everybody had rust buckets up in Vermont. Like nobody, there are detail shops and people up there who do it, but in my time back then, it just everybody just let their cars rust out.
Yeah. What's super cool though, like you were saying, so '09, that's 11, 12 years ago, unless my math is just terrible because I'm awful at math. But yeah, 12,
Years.
13 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Like detailing itself has evolved crazy since that amount of time. Like ceramic coatings were maybe just beginning to even be a thing, and they wasn't even like a service that was offered by the masses. Paint correction was still probably mainly rotaries probably at that time, I would assume. So like, that was evolving. The knowledge level wasn't there. Like people really were not training on it then, and really couldn't charge a higher price back then either. So it's cool how
Yeah.
you've evolved as well, and to see the industry evolve. And now it's kind of a premium service.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see it grow to that point where detailing has truly become quite an awesome business to get into right now. Like right now is the best time to do it, because of so many different opportunities out there. There's great companies that offer amazing products. They're affordable, and you can start this business literally on like a few $100s, under $1,000. You can get it started and work your way up.
Hmm.
and actually be making some serious money. It's pretty crazy.
Hmm. Yeah, and with what you have, I think that's the biggest thing is like, hey, 400, $500,000, like that'll get your foot in the door. It'll get you all the equipment and better equipment. That's the thing is like what you buy now for 500 bucks, $1,000 to really get everything you need is still 10 times better than what people had in 08, 09,
Yeah,
detailing was. Like now
yeah.
products, polishes are like even if you wanted to learn polishing, it's not that hard nowadays. Like, you have dual action polishers and pads and polishes that make it super easy. So it is the coolest industry for the fact that it doesn't cost a lot. Like anybody can do it, which comes with its downfall too, because anybody can do it. And there's 50,000 detailers that start every day. But if you have a general idea and common sense of, hey, here's my vision and here's my dream. I want to be here in 2 years. Like you'll get it done. And
Mhm.
but it's super cool that it doesn't cost a lot and doesn't take a lot to get into it.
Yeah, it truly is. You said something interesting about anybody can do it, and that's true. Anybody can physically like do the work and actually do awesome work. But as you and I know, the business part of it is a whole other world. Like to keep it sustainable and to actually have it as your main source of income is like a whole different world.
Hmm.
Because you can be amazing at it and have your day job as like your security. That's your money. But then you have detailing as just like your passion, your craft, and be amazing at it. But then if you let go of that day job and go full-time detailing, you quickly learn the differences between like the enthusiast side of detailing and the business side of detailing. They're like two different worlds completely.
Yeah, I think we all start as an enthusiast. Like we all have that hobby of washing our car. And like we always probably had something that was semi-clean, or even if it wasn't clean, we all enjoyed washing it probably every other day. But then when it's like your start that transaction, that's what kind of removes that. Not to say it's not fun, because I think like we all still enjoy it, but
Yeah.
it takes away that I guess the enjoyment of when you're not doing it for money, it's like it's pure hobby. But when you have to focus on the things that like I think what it is it's the things that you didn't know about when you first started. You're like, "Oh, I've got to have a sales strategy. I have to have like, you
Mhm.
got SEO, you got now social media, all these things." It's like it's
Yep.
overwhelming and you have to be doing those things.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like, man, when you start charging money for details and it starts to become your career, it's like, it does get a little harder, but it's still so possible.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like today completely overfilled my schedule. It just happens. Like not every day is like this.
Mhm.
Where I had this job in this morning, this Sequoia, which wasn't a trashed vehicle at all, but it's just so much landscape in there to cover and blow everything out. And it's just constantly working over ourselves. It took us like 5 hours with the two of us. I mean, that's 10 man hours. And
Mhm.
then I'm like, oh, I got this tonight. Oh, I got my training tonight. Like the whole day was just full and it just goes by so quickly. So some days are like that, but it's still, to be honest, it's like still satisfying because
Mhm.
the customer came and picked it up, super happy, got paid, done. Like each individual job can just get done at a time. Like there's nothing lingering, which is such a nice feeling. It's not like contracting with building of houses and other things where it's like it's a long, long, long process.
Mhm.
You can get things done in a day or two. The customer pays you, they're happy, you're done. Move on to the next. Like it's satisfying that way. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
I'm done, I get paid. So I like that about detailing. I like that just each job has its end, it's finished, done, you get paid and you move on. I like that.
Mhm. Yeah, I always thought about like getting into like becoming like a dealer, like a dealer,
Mm.
not detailer, car dealer. But the fact that like I'm super impatient and cannot obviously there's big bucks in everything, whether it be contracting, like wood flooring, whatever the case is, whatever the job is. But like that is something that is super cool about detailing. The fact that like, hey, most of these jobs take one day, few days tops, but like you're getting paid, you're seeing results, and you're seeing like there's this thing is like subconsciously we like to see humans like to see things checked off like a to-do list. It's like, okay, that's marked off, that's paid. Paid being our check off to-do list. So like when we see that, it's like kind of fulfilling to us. It's like, okay, mark that off, that job's done, now on to the next one, or now on to tomorrow. So
Yeah, exactly. Like I piled in so much for today, and then I got a maintenance customer tomorrow. It was going to be a light day tomorrow anyway, but he
Mhm.
called in. He's like, "Oh, I got to reschedule." And I'm like, "Ah, hey, now I got tomorrow off." Like, okay, I can go through today and have a crazy busy day, knowing that I don't have to do anything tomorrow.
Mhm.
So you have the benefit when you own your own business to be able to do that too. Some days you lose, some days you win, but you have that freedom. Like I'm not concerned about tomorrow. I can take it off and not worry about it.
Yeah, for sure. At what point, like in your business, did it like kind of click to get to like what you're doing now is primarily like premium type of detailing, like whether it be premium just details or paint corrections, polishing, and coatings. But like, at what point did it kind of click to you that we kind of need to start swinging that way with it?
Oh, that's a really good one. I would say probably about like 3 to 4 years in. Because in the beginning, we were like, what really helped us, like the first year we almost failed. Groupon came around, and at the time they were good. Like they actually were just featuring one business per city, and like it was amazing. It's flooded now, and it's not a good way of
Mhm.
putting your name out there. But when they first started, it was good. So that actually got us on the map. It was just the right place, the right time, and it worked. So we did that for like 2 years, and in the midst of learning how to work Groupon, we started getting customers that were like, I don't want the Groupon deal. I just want, like, I saw your other services. I want your full detail, not whatever you're offering on Groupon. I'm like, oh, okay, good. So slowly I started to get the customers that wanted more than just the group. Like they knew the Groupon deal was just like the basic whatever express
Mhm.
thing, just to get you on the map. But they wanted more than that. So now I started designing my packages with more services added on. I would add in the clay bar and machine applied sealants, um, and then the interior shampooing and steaming, and just more and more added on, and built a package at around the 250 to 275 range for our full detail, which we could get done in 3, 4, maybe 5 hours, depending on how bad the vehicle was. So yeah, we started doing that, and we're like, that's where we need to be. We need to phase out the Groupon Express things, and eventually they did fade out. And then we were no longer doing those. We were doing the full details. Like that was our base price package. So it was like 250 and up. And that's when we noticed a big change, because we could do two of those in a day typically. And we were working about 3 days a week. We didn't try to like fill up our schedule too much, because if we did, it would be horrible. So we did 3 days a week. That way we were able to switch around because of weather and all that. Left it very flexible. And if we could do two in a day, 3 days a week, that's $1,500 a week. If we could hit that 1,000 to $1,500 a week, that was like our mindset, our minimum, then we
Mhm.
were golden. If we could just keep that consecutively, it was good. And when we started doing that third to fourth year in, we started seeing finally some proper income coming in. And that's when it finally clicked. We're like, yes, that's what we need to do. And then a few years later, we started working on our polishing services, and then ceramic coating services. And that just jumped up a whole other level, starting from like 600 to 800 to like $1,000 to 1,200. Now we can do like 15 to $2,000. Just kept growing and growing and growing. And it took some time to do that, but it was a nice gradual way of doing it. And we just slowly kind of phased out cheaper and cheaper customers to get the more high end and the ones who are willing to pay more because they see the value in it.
Yeah. What's so cool too is I think a lot of people think like, which is possible. I'm going to say this, and it is possible for some detailers to get into it today, and especially like attending trainings and attending these, even your workshops. Like, there's enough resources out there available now to where
Yeah.
they can have success quicker. And there is someone who could literally start today and in 6 months have a consistently booked business doing coatings, polishing, and stuff. But the likelihood of it is, it's slimmer, but you
Yeah.
do have to put in the work. And you said, it took you 3 to 4 years to realize, hey, we need to make this pivot, and then another X amount of years to make this pivot.
Yeah.
obviously it is way quicker to the guys out there now starting because the resources are there, but it does take that work and it takes that consistency of saying, hey, I may not have extreme success in 1 year, but I'm going to do everything I possibly can, in that 1 year. And then the next year, I'm going to step it up this X amount, and it's just cool to say, hey, someone who is there, it, it can take longer than what you think it's going to, just
Yeah.
consistency.
Exactly. And every demographic is different. There are some cities and states and countries and whatever in the world that are doing better than others, and not to say that in poor areas you can't have a high-end detail shop, because I know some who actually have that, but they're well established, like they've been there for a while and they draw certain people from other cities, not necessarily just their own, which is interesting. So yeah, I mean it definitely matters on the demographics as well. And one thing that's interesting that I teach our students a lot is the paint enhancement, that one step paint enhancement and spray coating type of service is so easy, and that's one of the major things. It's like a nice middle ground. Like you can do your full details, but eventually, like you said, pivot to something where it is a little bit easier on you physically, because doing interior details is pretty taxing on your body. Doing exterior is not as much. And I teach people how to do these enhancements where even one person, 3 to 4 hours, you can do a quick enhancement, a 6 to 12 month ceramic spray coating, and charge $400 to $600. And you can just do that in one day, or if you want to pile in 2 days, or two in a day and do that. And the ones that I taught that to, they started advertising that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're instantly like, it's such a nice price point because it's not $1,000 and it's not $200. It's just at that right price point where they're making good money and the customers are super happy with what they're getting. And like that's that sweet spot too. We still do a lot of those just paint enhancements without ceramic coatings, just like a spray coating, and people love it because it's just at the right price point, and you can do those, all day. They're such a nice money maker.
Yeah, that's actually our top seller, to be honest with you, is even if it's just like, and I know this is controversial to whether you need to polish the vehicle beforehand, but like some vehicles, like if the client wants it and they see our add-on sheet, like I'm doing a 1 year coating, if they want to add it. But those are money makers, and it's such a great upsell, but also counter sell to like, hey, okay, someone was interested in, like, say they were like, hey, I want your a quote on a 2 year or 8 year or lifetime coating, whatever package that you offer. And it's like, that's a little out of my budget. Well, okay, let me offer you the 2 year. That's still out of my budget. Perfect. Hey, we're jumping way down in price with the 1 year coating or a spray coating and an enhancement. Like, oh, they're like, oh wow, that's so cheap compared to, but you're still getting those benefits, and clients love it. It's a moneymaker. I think all detailers should be offering somewhere around that package or some alternative to it. You're exactly right. I love how like you in your videos I watch all the time, and you do those, like you do the enhancements, you do the 1 year coatings or the spray coatings.
Mm,
One big thing that I love about your videos is like something that a lot of people aren't addressing is how you're communicating that as well. Like
mm.
obviously an enhancement is going to greatly improve the clarity and the gloss, but like it's not perfection. And how are you communicating to that client? Like if it's whether it's not in their budget to get a full paint correction, or whether maybe the paint's not, it's a little butchered, but they're going to see results from it. How do you communicate that to them?
Yeah, that's important. Basically, you have to have like a good line of questioning in your head, like a good outline. And it's pretty simple, but I think just sometimes some detailers just kind of fail to ask because they just want to do it. But if it's a daily driver, I'll ask the customers, is it a daily driver? Is it garage? Does it sit outdoors? How do you wash it? Like those are like the most important questions, because that really will determine how the car is going to look in a year or two. Um, I had a couple of clients where they have a daily driver. It's a brand new car, but it was a daily driver. It doesn't stay in the garage at all. He's driving it every single day. And it was one of the videos where I showed how to unclog a coating. It was just 6 months, and it was crystal serum light. Like it's pretty strong. Like people actually don't realize that that's actually a very strong coating. and already like the back of it was like full of tar and iron. Like I had to declog the thing. It was insane, but it was because he drives it so much. And in retrospect, I'm like, he wanted the 5-year coating, like he went with that, and I even offered the 2-year coating, but I kind of leave it up to the customer too.
Mhm.
But in retrospect, I'm like, maybe I should have tried to sell the 2-year coating instead, saved him some money so that it's not like in his mind like this is supposed to last 5 years, but on a daily driver, it may not. Like realistically, it may not.
Mhm.
So that line of questioning is really, really important. And don't worry about like not selling the higher ticket one because it's a difference of $300. Like for my package, the 5-year one is 1,500, the 2 years 1,200, $300 difference. It's not a big deal to me. I'd be happier selling the customer something that they need instead of just me selling them a package to make that extra money, and they may be disappointed in the long run. So I think that's important to ask. If it's a vehicle that's like, oh, it's my weekend vehicle, or I don't use it for work, it's something that's fun, or it stays garage, then I'm like, 5-year coating, that would be great because you'll probably even double the lifespan on that.
Mhm.
But for daily drivers and vehicles that may get abused after your line of questioning, after you kind of qualify them, I'm usually going to go with either a 1-year or a 2-year coating, like nothing past that,
Mhm.
just to realistically show them and let them know, like within at the end of 2 years, you're probably going to want to polish it. It's gonna feel gritty. You're going to want to do more to it because you're driving it so often and it sits outdoors. And like after 2 years, you're going to want to repolish it and recoat it. So that's definitely a good conversation to have with the customers, and don't just try to sell them the larger package just to make the money. It's better to actually keep them coming in regularly every few years. You essentially you make more money that way, and you keep the customer happy that way too.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like integrity pretty much. And we're in a trade to where like I always say like detailers should sell. Like it's we are in business, we should sell, but it's like we're in a trade to where you don't have to really sell. You're really just giving the customer asking a question like based on what they need, based on how they drive it, how often they drive it. And you can
Mhm.
kind of come up with the package to sell them. And if they want it, they want it. If they don't, they don't. You can just counter it with something else. But a used car salesman is like, hey, you go in to buy a minivan and they don't have a minivan in and you're leaving with a sports car, like, just because they persuaded you into something that you really didn't want. We don't really have to be that way. It's kind of a cut and dry trade. It's like, hey, do you want this? How long are you going to keep it? When do you plan on selling it? How often do you drive it? And then
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah, and a vehicle is very personal to people. It really is. Like even some people who say they don't really care about their vehicle. I mean, if they don't care about their vehicle, they're not coming to us. We'll never see them.
Mhm.
But we're seeing the ones because it's a luxury business. We don't need it. They want it. So if they're coming to us, they want something, and we just have to work within their budget and help them. But you know, on the other hand, when it comes to a business, you do have to have like your minimum, the minimum that you're going to do, and don't go below that. Don't go cheaper. Don't offer something that's so cheap that you're like you regret it later.
Mhm.
Um, Price it at that right price point where you feel good about it. You feel that you could maybe even give them a little extra on something sometimes. But they walk away happy. They walk away satisfied because it's so personal to them. It's their personal vehicle. They get in it. They're like, if they're happy getting in it, that's one of the reactions. I want them to like step in it and like look at the reaction in their face, and they look around and they're like, ah, that's what I want. That's the reaction that I want from them. That's how you know that they're like satisfied with the whole thing. They feel good about it.
And that's what gives you satisfaction too, is the detailer. It's like, if you don't get like kind of a thrill off of when a client is like, if I'm having a bad day, I remember like when a client would pick up their vehicle and they're like, and sometimes it cod go the other way and, you just have a bad client. But most of the time, like you
Mhm.
have a good client that like really respects like the end result. And they're like, man, this is really good. Like you guys crushed it. Like that's what you want. That's kind of what every detailer should still get, that thrill. And if you don't,
Yeah.
maybe find something else, because that is the best part about this trade.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. People still ask me, they want the customer's reaction. And I'm like, I can't quite do that because I don't have such a huge influx of customers that I can do that. And I got to like protect their privacy too.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've asked a few if they want to be recorded or interviewed, and they're like, nah. So I just stopped asking because I just don't want to make it awkward for them. Like, I'm not in the business of like recording their reaction.
Yeah.
So I got to keep it private. But for me personally, like that's my thing. That's my benefit. Like I get to enjoy that. Unfortunately, my viewers don't, but I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is not even the one today. Like he got in the vehicle, he was so happy because he got it from the dealership, and they're like, "Oh, we detailed it to the nines for you." And he got in, and you could literally see like goldfish underneath the back. And he's like, "Oh, I just feel like I'm driving around in someone else's car. Like it's gross." And yeah, that's what took us so long, is like making sure that all those areas underneath, like all the buckles and all the metal parts are like steamed and blown and like everything, and like that nothing will fall out there and crumbs will fall out. Like after he saw that, he was like, "Ah, finally." And he's got kids. He's got like 2 or 3 kids that are going to go back in there. And he's like, "Good. Now any of the goldfish that are going to go in there are going to be my fault."
Yeah, he's got it from square one now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but he was very happy with that, and that's the satisfying thing.
Yeah, that's cool. I wanted to take a moment from the episode really quick and tell you about the detail community, what some of the members inside are saying, and how you can become a member today. So when you join today, you're going to get access to over 50 plus business classes and classes added monthly. These classes and these resources are going to show you click by click and step by step on how to take your business to that next level, whether you're just starting, already started, or been in business for years and you just want more traction and want that momentum so that you can start making more money. You also get access to a private community of other members that are already inside. These are ambitious detailers just like yourself that you can connect with and get support every step of the way. It's going to take away that loneliness and make it to where you don't have to do business alone. We do live hangouts monthly to where you can come hang out, connect with other members inside as well, and ask your toughest questions no matter what stage in your business you're at and get an in-depth answer. And if you're enjoying the podcasts that are coming from the Detail Spot podcast, you are definitely going to enjoy being a member of the Detail community, because you also get exclusive podcast episodes and bonus footage uploaded to your member library that only members a part of the Detail community get access to. Something that is super cool that you also have access to that are added to your member library on a monthly basis are these pre-made promotion templates. These are going to allow you to separate yourself from your competitors and really stand out and display your brand in a positive and professional light. These packs are added monthly, so you always have something to post on social media, and so that you always have some type of branding getting pushed out there to your clients. So before we get back into the episode, let me show you really quick what some of the members inside are saying. So Marvin said, "I sold one coding service from using something that was said in one of the members only podcast episodes. Now my membership is covered for a couple years now." Kyle said, "What you said on the hangout last night is working. I texted about 5 or 6 of my clients and already have 2 booking for September." Preston said, "I just joined in here. I did watch the pricing and packaging lesson. I can most definitely confirm my pricing was way too low. I just raised it to where I know for sure I'm making money now, and I had 2 clients agree to the higher prices." That is awesome. Brian said, "If you guys are wondering if it's worth it, it is. There's a ton of amazing content, podcasts, ad templates, detailing information out the wazoo, and monthly, which I hope turns to weekly or bi-weekly, member Zoom hangouts. Seriously guys, I'm not just trying to sell anyone. It's beyond worth the price for what you get. See for yourself." And then Michael said, "I will pay for this for life, man. The information in here is worth way more than $37 a month. I've already gotten 5 clients to accept upsells using what was in one of the classes." So you get access to all of that I just showed you, plus so much more. There are so many resources there and resources added regularly for you to use at any time you would like, and that are gonna really help you take your business to that next level so that you can make more money, put more money in your pocket, take more time off, buy a new house, buy a new car, whatever your dreams or goals are, this community is going to help you take your business to that level. And the coolest part about it is it's only $37 a month. Something that is going to help you make more money is only $37 a month. Think of it this way: if only one thing or only one resource helps you get a lead in or helps you attract more clients, your membership is paid for a long time. And I know there are so many resources there, more than one is going to help you, but even if only one does, it is paid for and it is worth it. So join today, become a member of the Detail community. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, click the link in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description, or you can go to thedetailcommunity.com/join. Become a member today, get access to all of that today. And I cannot wait to connect with you further inside. And I cannot wait to watch your business grow and watch you take your detailing business to that next level so that you can start crushing your goals and achieving your dreams. So like back to like the corrections and the like polishing, some of your videos I would watch, like, and every detailer probably struggles with this, of like, you see something more that you can go after, to where like, what's the good in between line? Because obviously, like, if you have the extra time to go overboard on a vehicle, or like, because like, I think there's a lot of mixed information in this space. So where like, only give what the client's paying for, but in the beginning stages, like, over delivering can sometimes like be a good thing.
Mhm.
So like, I guess I would say, like, if you're just beginning, like, maybe over deliver is completely fine, but know the fine line. How do you know when to kind of like stop chasing defects?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because it's very subjective. Like, it's according to everybody's eye. And it's something that I train detailers to when they come here, to step back every once in a while, because we tend to like hyper focus on something and we will only see the defects and we won't see the big picture. So I try to like back up and show people, look at the big picture. And sometimes I'll even leave like a patch on the hood that's uncorrected, and I'll do everything else so that it's almost like refreshing my eyes to like go back to that patch and look at it with the lights. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it looked like before. Now look at it. Is it 50% or better? That's the goal.
Hmm.
So I always leave like a little patch on the hood just to go back to and refresh my eyes, and know that that's where I came from, and look at the rest of the vehicle, look at the big picture.
Hmm.
There are some areas on a vehicle where you're like, this is just too apparent. Like, if there is slightly a deeper scratch and you measure the paint, you're like, hey, I got time. Like, I'm flying through this thing. It's turning out great. I got time. Let me compound this a little bit more and get it out a little bit more. Or maybe it was something that the customer was like, I am worried about this in particular. And sometimes they'll even let you know, like, I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried about this. So that's another good line of questioning, is like, what are you concerned with? And they will go through, and you can even point out stuff like that scratch won't come out. That's what you can kind of already determine what's going to come out, what's not. Um, that kind of gives you the balance, talking to a customer and figuring out what are they concerned about. That way you don't go overboard.
Hmm.
Um, so there are times to over deliver when you are on schedule, but if it's something that is taking a long time, the paint is difficult, then you just have to kind of focus on what you're supposed to do for
Hmm.
that. But it's a fine line. It's difficult to make that decision, just because every vehicle is different, every customer is different. So you kind of have to gauge that for yourself, but also be ready to explain to the customer why you did or didn't do something,
Hmm.
and give them the reasons. Measure the paint and make sure, like, hey, I tried on this, wouldn't come out. This is the reason why. It's too thin. That's something you just got to live with. Um, One thing to do that's good when you're done with the job and the customer's looking at it is point out all of the major defects first, like right away. Just point them all out.
Hmm.
That way it gets it out of their mind. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'm fine with that, fine with that. Let's look at the big picture. So it kind of gets that all out of the way, and then they can kind of enjoy the rest of it. It's kind of a weird psychological thing, but I learned to do that like right away. Just pick out all the flaws and the defects first. That way they don't find those first. You
Mhm.
find it first and you point it right out. But yeah, it is a balance to figure out how far to go.
Yeah. I do the same thing actually. Like when a customer's picking up, because it bugs me personally that like, because you never know, like every client, their expectations are totally different. How they react to things are totally different. And I guess that comes into play pre-inquiry, like how you're getting that vibe or like how you're communicating. But it did always bug me out to where like, hey, was this client's biggest concern of like, are they going to notice that? Majority of the time they're not going to notice the things that we notice to that extent. But some do, and some are like, why didn't this come out? And they're picking at it with their fingernail or something, and it's
Oh,
like getting it that out of the way. I know that everybody has probably experienced that. But like it's pointing that out and saying, hey, and it kind of works too, it kind of goes with your pre-communication of like, or your during the process of saying, hey, Mr. Smith, like I noticed, this does have a deeper scratch here that's probably not repairable. I just wanted to go ahead and point that out for you, before you pick up or something. And then when they do pick up, you could say, hey, there's that scratch. It obviously didn't come out, we went over that. So it kind of like you almost get to kind of tie it in with the communication during the process as well. But yeah, I
yeah.
always point that out too, just because it bugs me personally. And I'd rather just get that over with and be like, hey, but everything else is beautiful. Like it looks way
Yes.
better, don't it?
Exactly. Yep. Yep. That's like my line of reasoning in the way that I speak to customers when they come in, and like I do exactly the same thing. And there's some customers that, like you mentioned, that you get a vibe from. And if you've been in this business long enough, you can, to a certain degree, kind of feel people, and something there's sometimes something about a person that's just like a little off. They're complaining about something that you're like that. Why are you complaining about? Like something is a little weird here.
Yeah.
And I know it can be a little controversial because you're not judging the person, but in a way you got to make sure to cover your bases and protect yourself. So you kind of have to be wary of those things and be aware of them. Um, so in that case, like sometimes I just get a weird vibe, or my wife will, like she's got a good sense of when people are like a little weird. Sometimes I bypass it because I'm just trying to be friendly, and I'm like, it's a personal quirk or whatever. But my wife would be like, something's weird. I'm like, okay. And what I did is I devised this vehicle inspection form, and I don't do it for every single customer because I have a lot of regulars that I just know personally, and
Yeah.
they'll buy new cars, bring it in, and I'm doing all sorts of stuff for them. I don't worry about them. But sometimes we get new customers that just you get a weird vibe from. So I have this customer vehicle inspection and sign off form that I created. I didn't really create it. It's Their forms just like this all over the place.
Hmm.
I just made it. I just personalized it for me. But I'll go around the vehicle and like show all the little chips and everything, and then say up at the top, what it is, and then have them sign off on it and look around the vehicle, because I've had some that have gone to their homes, driven like 20 minutes to their homes, and then they said they still have bugs in their bumper. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
you just drove 20 minutes home. Like, you don't think there's any bugs that are going to hit your car? Like, in the meantime, like, once it leaves, it's done. Like, there's nothing, you can't complain about a bug because you're driving. So it's this type of thing that protects from that. And you just go over the vehicle with them. But again, it's just kind of a thing that it's not for every single customer, but some new customers, you just get that vibe. So it's just nice to have that. I have it in digital form too, and I actually have that free form on our website, so customers can even, detailers can download that if they want.
Mhm. And what's that website?
MirandaDetailing.com. So it's right on our website, product page, product tab, and it will have the two free forms. Our acknowledgement form is on there. That's like a pre form that they sign before we even schedule anything. Before they even get on the calendar, they have to read and sign it. And I know it seems like a little hard, a little heavy, but it's something that I implemented that I'm not going to back down on anymore because we've learned. And I think it's just good for any service-based business. You go to mechanic shops, you go to any of these shops, you're signing something,
Hmm.
but a lot of people aren't reading the fine print. Like, it's protecting them, and this is the same deal.
Mhm.
So those forms are there. They're free to download and just customize any way you want.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to like yesterday I actually went to Discount Tire. I had to get my tires rotated. And there's certain businesses that are really put on a pedestal of like professionalism. How I actually look at those businesses and say, man, how can I incorporate how they're doing that into my business? Discount Tire is like my number one because they are obviously they're way bigger scale than probably any detail shop is, like, but that says something. It's like, hey, their professionalism, the employees that they hire, how they do things, their systems are so routine that
Mhm.
it's like you really can't mess up and you can't like the customer really has no say. And if they do, they're normally wrong. Maybe there's one bad batch of employees within Discount Tire, obviously, probably somewhere,
Yeah.
but their systems, I guarantee you, they're pretty fail proof. Like, you know, but I think detailing sometimes by clients and a client's eyes, we get looked at as kind of too small. Like there should be no difference between your business and Discount Tire
Mhm.
because it's still a business. You're still a person behind it. And then if
Yeah.
they sue you or if they, it still has that same effect. But I think sometimes clients can kind of take advantage of small businesses like detailing. So having those things like that you just said with that inspection checklist of like saying, hey, this is going to kind of clear up anything. I'm going to go ahead and set this straight, like, kind of save myself of like, hey, you signed this, like,
Yeah.
because, there can be some clients that, and the sad part is if you let one person in, that one bad person, no matter if you have 50, 100 5-star reviews, one star can turn people away and it can kind of, ruin your reputation. So it's so
Yeah.
good to be smart about like, hey, who do I want to do business for?
Yeah, exactly. And again, in this business, you have the power, like eventually you get to a point where you have the power to say yes or no to certain customers. And we've done that. We've actually had morning schedule when we were mobile. And already on the phone, I was a little weirded out by this one customer. But I'm like, I'll schedule, I'll go, let's see. And this is before I even had the forms. And we went, the car was like pristine. It wasn't even new. It was used, but it was pristine. And the customer was just complaining about bug etchings. And I'm like, it was definitely defects that were just they're permanent. Like you got to
Mhm.
repaint it. But he swears that they put it into the car, like the dealership did it. And already I'm like, I don't want to touch this.
Yeah, I know.
Bring it back to the dealership, have them deal with it. And I just refused. I'm like, and my wife, this is so funny because like we can give each other looks and we know like what's going on. So I'm talking and my wife was getting like buckets out and getting things ready. And I look at her and I'm like, mm-mm.
She's like,
She's like, and she puts stuff back in the van. And I'm like, sorry, sir, like, we can't do anything here. You got to bring it back. I was just very polite and very kind and just said, just bring it back to to the dealership. If we touch it, we're going to be the ones to blame because we're the last ones who touch it. Bring it back to them. You just bought it, bring it back. And we just left it at that. And we're like, we hightailed it out of there and went to early lunch. But you get that vibe sometime. And they're like, don't worry about losing the money. That was the $250 job that it could have been, but we could have lost that money. It could have been bad. Like it just, so I didn't even worry about losing the money. I'm like, we dodged a bullet, you know?
yeah.
And we've
Yeah,
had
and
a,
it could have cost you so much more money too. It's like I feel
oh,
like bug etching is that one thing that clients just can't understand too. It's
yeah.
like I mean, there's obviously multiple, but that one I always get to where it's like either the detail is done and we've done it, and they're like, your guys didn't even get the bugs off. And I'm like, theirs are actually stained in there. And what's so crazy too is like that the fact that like customers can kind of get bad customers, I guess, to where like they get kind of overly picky. It could be like an '08 car that's never been detailed in its life, but like their expectations. And that's something that I messed up truly. That when I first began, like I would say, okay, cool. What's the vehicle you're making model? Cool. We have this date available. Cool. I'll be there. And then didn't get any information. Didn't look for the red flags like you were. And it's a nightmare after, and you have to deal with it. And it ruins your day. A lot of times you either have to refund because you're still trying to salvage your reputation.
Mhm.
And so it all comes back to the communication, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it really, yeah. When we started, same deal. I mean, we learned trial and error. We had some crazy things that happened, and we kept adding on to our acknowledgement. Like if you ever read our acknowledgement form, there's some things in there that you're like, what? But if you really think about it, like that could be a potential issue. And we had to put it in there because we dealt with it before, like multiple times, not just like a one-time thing, but something that would happen on a regular basis. And we're like, this is weird. We got to put this in the form. Like people are, like you said, kind of taking advantage of the little detailers that they think aren't like a real business. Like we're paying taxes. Like we're doing everything the business is supposed to do.
Mhm.
And, so we got to treat it like a business, and the customers have to recognize that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Dude, Phil, this has been a good episode. We'll go off with these last two questions. One being, if you were to if you were to go back to your beginner self and give yourself one piece of good advice, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. I would have to say, basically, don't give up. Don't give up, because I almost did. I almost did after that first year, and we kept on going with it. Kept on. That's with any business. So do not give up, and look for other detailers, whether in your area or online, and reach out to them. Don't be afraid to reach out to them. There might be some that don't want to help you. No problem. Move on to the next, because you will find a detailer who is willing and ready to help the next generation of detailers.
Mhm. Dude, great advice, because I actually did quit after a year in. I
Oh,
quit 1 year in, man. It just was not doing it. Like, obviously, I didn't know what I was doing, and I did quit, and it was the biggest mistake ever. I ended up coming back to it, and but that's good advice, Phil. How can people find your YouTube? How do you want people to find you?
you can go right onto our website. Everything is there. So if you go to mirandadetailing.com, you will see one of our videos, that like a feature video, right on the main page. From there, you can go right onto our YouTube channel and subscribe and click on that link and that bell so you don't miss stuff. And you get everything from there. We got our products page, we got merchandise like shirts and mugs and cool stuff, but links to all sorts of tools and products we use. There's discount codes on there as well for Car Supplies Warehouse and other places where we get products and tools from. So all the links are there. We have Instagram and we got TikTok on there as well, but YouTube is our major source there for information.
Awesome, awesome. Loved having you on, Phil.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. That is it for this episode of the Detail Spot podcast. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. I know I had a great time chatting it up with Phil and really just getting to hang out. He's someone that I look at as an industry leader and someone that I know brings this industry a ton of value. And it's someone that I really wanted to bring on the podcast for you guys. And I hope you enjoyed it because I definitely did. And if you are enjoying the content that is coming from this channel, if you can, leave us a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It's going to greatly help the channel grow so that we can reach other detailers just like yourself. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with a friend on social media so that they can get something from it as well. And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to like this video, comment, and subscribe. That's also going to get you a chance to win a Detail Community t-shirt and your first month of the Detail Community for free. So make sure to like this video, comment, and subscribe. And that'll also make sure that you don't miss a future episode whenever we release those. So I can't thank y'all enough. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you on the next episode of the Detail Spot podcast.